In this section, we'll cover a bonus strategy, attributing meaning to student selections on their AAC devices. So in this strategy, the partner observes whatever the user's behaviors are, possibly facial expressions, body language, or it can even be interactions with their AAC device. So what this may look like is when a student selects buttons on their AAC device that seem random or maybe unclear in their meaning. And then we assign a possible meaning, often by modeling that meaning on the AAC device, or at the very least, talking with the student about what they've selected. So we'll watch this video with Dr. Caroline Musselwhite talking about this in a little bit more detail.
I find it really interesting to talk about attributing meaning to random attempts because often teachers feel like this is crazy. This feels really uncomfortable. But what we need to do is look at what we do with young, typically developing children. We attribute meaning all the time to typically developing children. That child says, da, da, da. And we say, Daddy, he said Daddy. And the kid looks at us like, really? But you know what? It just became much more likely that that child was going to say Daddy. That child so is not saying Daddy. We heard it, we attributed meaning, it became more likely. When a student is using a communication device and says something, I attribute meaning. So if we're reading a book and that student says who, and now I attribute meaning. I assume that they're asking a question about the character in the book. And I say, oh, who? Well, I think that was that dog that's the really bad dog in my book. That's who it was. And by doing that, I'm telling them, what does it mean to say who? Maybe that student didn't know that before, and I can help attribute meaning. By the time we have students scribbling, by the time we get good communication systems in place, they're a lot older, and we feel like everything should be meaningful and they should just know how to do it. No, they shouldn't, because they never got a chance to scribble with writing. They never got a chance to babble with language. And so we need to give them a chance to explore their communication sets and to explore the alphabet and to scribble. And we need to be really good about attributing meaning so that it becomes very meaningful to them and so that they can grow and learn from their initial attempts that really weren't intentional, possibly, and that possibly weren't meaningful. But we can add intentionality and we can add meaning and we can help them grow and learn.
So I think it's helpful to think about attributing meaning as shaping a student's communication attempts. They may seem random and may actually be random in the beginning, but by those interactions of attributing meaning, we can shape them into more meaningful communication. So now it's time to take the opportunity to practice. If you have access to a speech generating device where you can hear the selection that you make, and this might be a little bit easier, but you can still practice this on a light tech core board. You just will have to open your eyes to see what you selected. But to help with the random aspect of this, close your eyes and wiggle your finger around. Just make a random selection on the AAC device. And then think about and practice what you could say to attribute meaning to that selection. If you really want to level up, you can also practice what you could model with that selection. So in the example from the video where she mentioned who when reading a story, that would also be, some of the things that she said back is, oh, who? And I would model who then. Oh, it's that really bad dog. That's who, and model it again, combining those two strategies together because these strategies all really overlap and interact with one another. Another example, and this is a real classroom example, and we had a student in one of our classrooms who just kept selecting the word do over and over again. And the staff was like, she just keeps saying do, and it doesn't really mean anything. So we talked about ways we could shape that depending on the context of what's going on in the classroom. She selected do. Oh, we're going to do a craft. Or maybe she selects do and then starts turning away or pushing away. Oh, I think you may want to do something different. You're reading a book, she selects do. You're right, we do need to turn the page right now. So I want you to take a few minutes to practice these random selections and how you could respond to them if one of your students were to do this in your classroom. Then we'll come back and we'll talk about some other ways to incorporate AAC into our classroom activities.